Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Great work, counsel and parents. So today you have received your decree of divorce. So I wish you both the very best of luck. Good afternoon, everyone. We are on the record on the matter, case number D23. May I have appearances, please?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Lisa Szyc, 11726, appearing on behalf of plaintiff who is present today in the courtroom.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Sheila Tajbakhsh, present with, bar number 15353. Present who's here to my left. Sorry, it's been a very long day, Judge.
I understand. Thank you. Thank you. This is counsel for evidentiary hearing. I want to make note that we do have our Nevada judges present, and we want to thank you for blotting out the names of witnesses of our victims and family members. And I see we also have some folks in the gallery. Can you please identify yourselves?
Maternal grandfather?
Thank you.
Mother and paternal.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I do recognize that they did testify, but they're no longer testifying to this portion of trial. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
That's okay. All right, this is the extension day 2 of the evidentiary hearing. We don't have the full 3 hours today, but based upon the time right now, I wanted to give you guys time to negotiate, if at all. Was there any negotiation today?
Yes, Your Honor. We are pleased to announce that we have made several stipulations that we would like to place on the record, at which after that I would like to canvass my client, and then I believe counsel is going to ask her client some questions, and then we can wrap this up probably within 45 minutes.
Oh, excellent. Okay,
Yes.
well, in that case, if you need more time to continue conferring, by all means, I just didn't want to eat into your trial time.
Oh.
So if you guys need a few, I know I asked my marshal to rush you guys in here. If you need to finalize matters, go ahead, but otherwise, let's put it on the record.
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
So counsel and I have conferred, and with the court's permission, we would like to make a proposal with respect to closing briefs on the child custody matter. We would like to submit briefs by 4:30 p.m. on May 24th, and limit the briefs to the issue of child custody and child support.
Okay.
And then with that, we have reached several negotiations with respect to the financial issues, including we'll pay to $35,000 based on a Momquist calculation for her community property interest in the marital residence. She will waive all interest she has remaining in that residence. That amount will be paid within 7 days of May 1st. The parties agreed to a quadro calculation based on the time rule of any and all retirement accounts that have been identified in the financial disclosure forms on file. Ms. will retain as her sole and separate property the Lexus vehicle. All other vehicles will go to Mr. The parties have been working together and have identified property subject to an A-B list, which we have a photograph of that list we can attach as an exhibit if necessary. To save time, we are not going to go through and identify all of the items at this time. But the parties have both seen the list, the breakdown, and they are in agreement to those items that have been identified to each individual. Child support will be addressed by the court in the closing briefs. Ms. agrees to waive spousal support based on these negotiations. Mr. agrees to release the T-Mobile phone number that is assigned to agrees to remove her name from the joint bank account that Mr. is currently paying for. Both of those things shall be completed no later than May 15th, given that it is a final week. Agrees to start the process of removing his name from the Lexus vehicle within 30 days. Has 45 days from May 1st to begin or to vacate the marital residence, at which point it will be Mr. sole and separate property.
Okay. They're removing Mr. from the Lexus within 30 days, within 30 days of 5/15, 5/1, or today?
5/1.
5/1, okay. Okay,
Just a couple of clarifications, Judge, when you're ready.
sure.
As far as the house goes, the parties have agreed that my client will be able to do like a walkthrough of the house right before Ms. relocates from the house. We're encouraging the parties to try to set that up between themselves. If there's an impasse, myself and Ms. Szyc will get involved and try to facilitate that. The Lexus will be refinanced. Right now, the insurance and the registration do need to become current so does the payment. It needs to become current. Since everything's still in my client's name, I would just ask that Ms. make the payments to him until she's ready to pay off the car or refinance it, however she's gonna do that. We said the 45 days they vacate, 35,000. Oh, and the life, I don't think we discussed that, the life. Okay, well, that's something we'll have to discuss. Does your client want the life insurance policy still for her?
No.
She doesn't want it? Okay. So you'll keep the life insurance if you want to, if not, just cancel it.
Your Honor, for the record, we just need to know how far behind the Lexus is.
No, so that was a misspoke. The Lexus is current. Insurance is current. I messaged plus the registration is not current.
Yes, and to address that issue, she will be getting the registration current. However, she does need to wait until she receives the $35,000 before she can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. I think that covers the agreements. My client will keep his own attorney's fees, Your Honor, at this time with
Yes.
regard to the finances and everything else. Other than that, I believe we're just gonna do some short testimony, but this is the agreement as to the finances. I feel like we've missed something.
No, the debt. We need to address the debt.
Yes, okay.
So again, the debt between the parties has been identified in both the financial disclosure forms that are on file with the court. It is my understanding, and please correct me if I misspeak, that Ms. is going to assume the debt that has been identified in both FDFs.
Yes, Your Honor. My client will assume the debt that's been identified in the case in the spirit of settlement, and will continue paying on that, and he will indemnify Ms. the same. If there's something that we've forgotten, we've got a little bit of time, we'll think of it, but I think that covers the full agreement that we reached today.
And in the spirit of negotiations, because there's a stipulation, if we are missing something, the parties agree that we can just add it to the final decree.
Okay,
Yes, Your Honor.
excellent. Let me make sure I have this correct. Great job, counsel, and let's make sure we have this correct.
Oh,
So,
I'm so sorry, Judge, this is what I remembered. The last payment for spousal support was made for May, Your Honor. My client will continue paying the the bills on the marital residence through this month, but June will not be paid in for mom's support anymore. It'll just be May. I believe her goal is to get out by the end of the month, but we are giving her 45 days. And the parties will work together to get the house vacated and assume that.
That is correct.
okay, excellent. Let me see if I have this correct, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. For, as far as child custody and support, parties agree that they will submit their closing briefs, and propose findings of fact, conclusions of law by May 24th, 4:30 p.m.
Correct.
Please email the proposed findings to my law clerk and make sure to copy one another on your proposed findings in Word format. With regard to the finances, the property, with regard to the marital residence, the defendant will pay the plaintiff $35,000 for the Malmquist form, pursuant to Malmquist for the plaintiff's share community property interest in the marital residence. Upon receipt of that $35,000, plaintiff will waive any and all claims, interest in the marital residence. That $35,000 is going to be due 7 days from today.
Correct.
Okay, 7 days from today, which is 5/2. Okay. With regard to the quadro, we're going to have a quadro pursuant to the time rule, and that's going to, who's going to bear the cost of the quadro? Both parties bear the cost equally?
It can be split, Your Honor.
Split that, that's what we typically do.
That's fine.
Okay, quadro, when's the time frame for the quadro? 30 days?
I would ask that my client be able to begin the process within 30 days. There's a lot of movement that's going to be going on,
Sure.
but he'll do his best to get it started within 30 days.
And there's one thing that I want to make on the record to that. Prior to entering into these negotiations at deposition, there was a stipulation that was signed. There was a loan taken out against the retirement account by Mr. And that will need to be taken into account for the quadro. So I'm just making a record per that stipulation. That will not count against the share.
Okay,
And so it will be handed to the quadro people for them to figure out. I'm just making a record that there was a previous stipulation with respect to the retirement account by the parties, and it will have no impact on the share for her calculation.
We can provide that order too.
Yes.
As we sign that order.
yes, okay, excellent. So any loan that was taken out during the course of these proceedings against the retirement account will not be attributed to Mr. and will be Mr. that cost let the Quadro Masters figure out how to do that.
Correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, excellent. So Quadro, Mr. begin the process for the Quadro within 30 days, and both parties will bear that cost equally. With regard to the Lexus, Mrs. will be rewarded the Lexus. The Lexus is currently current as far as the payments as well as the insurance. The registration is due. Mrs. will pay for that registration upon receipt of the $35,000. And she will continue to make the payments current on the Lexus, and she'll have 30 days from 5/1 to remove Mr. from the Lexus so that it can be solely in her name. Is that correct with regard to the Lexus?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. All right, and then Mr. maintain all other vehicles. I'm assuming any encumbrances thereon will be with Mr.
Yes.
Okay, and the same goes to Mr. moving Mrs. from it in the event her name is on any of them, which she probably isn't.
Yeah, there's her name's not on.
Okay. All right, excellent. Okay, and any and all personal property and belongings will be subject to the list that you guys are circulating right now and working on. Okay, spousal support, Mrs. You're waiving spousal support? Okay, and let's see, with regard to, I can't read my own writing. Oh, the bank accounts. Okay, so the bank accounts, I believe that we're going to, looking at the bank accounts, Mr. remove Mrs. name from one of the bank accounts by 5/15.
Miss will remove her name.
Oh, we'll remove her
There's two, Your Honor.
from the bank account. Okay, there's two. Okay, and that's by 5/15.
Correct.
Okay, excellent. And then 45 days from 5/1, Mrs. will vacate the residence, and Mr. will conduct a walkthrough prior to her vacating that residence. The parties to coordinate that.
Correct.
Correct? Okay.
And the only thing that's missing is Mr. agrees to release Mr. telephone number from T-Mobile by
That's great.
5/15.
Thank you. Okay, yes, I do have here defendant released, and I couldn't read that word. Defendant will release Mrs. the T-Mobile numbers to Mrs. Correct. Okay, and then I have, let's see, on the next page, I have the debts, all the debts that are listed in the FDF of both parties will be assumed by Mr. Is that any and all FDFs or the most recent FDF? Which one are we referring to?
The most recently filed.
Okay, so looking at the most recently filed FDF for each of the parties, Mr. agreeing to assume all of those debts. Okay, all right, was there anything else?
I believe that covers all of the negotiations between the parties.
Okay, great, so you guys want to canvass your clients?
I was going to call Ms. so that I could do the entire canvas of the negotiation and for the purposes of getting them divorced today.
Okay,
And then I would pass and rest essentially.
excellent, and then you'll do the same, and then you'll ask me, I'm sure, to certify this pursuant to DCR 16?
Yes, Your Honor. The only thing we're going to call my client for, there was testimony on the first day by Ms. Kramer about my client's finances. Since the court will be making a decision as to child support, I would just like my client to provide his testimony, just with regard to his employment, his hours, and his income. I had one other request for the court, but I'll wait until we finish this portion of it.
Yeah. And there were some exhibits that we stipulated to admit, but we think that the court may need to consider them for child support calculations. So we can admit them now if you'd like, or.
Absolutely, Madam Clerk will take that down. What ones are you stipulating, sir?
I'm looking first at defendant's evidentiary exhibits. Sorry, I have to find the list that I actually have the marks on. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So we have stipulated to agree, or the parties have been stipulated to admit defendant's exhibit A, defendant's exhibit B, defendant's exhibit C, defendant's exhibit D,
We're just looking for the relevant ones, Your Honor.
defendant's exhibit FF. Do you want to admit GG?
Yes.
And defendant's exhibit GG.
And then in plaintiff's exhibit book, exhibit 3, exhibit 5, 7 and 8, 9, 10. We said the house ones too, right? That's
Right.
what 11, 13, 17, 18, 31, and that's it, Your Honor. I believe. I just want to double check. There we go.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, do you want me to confirm or do you want to confirm? You want me to leave that on there? Okay. All right, so for plaintiffs, I have exhibits 3, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 17, 18, and 31 stipulated to.
Yes, Your Honor.
Correct.
And then for defendants' exhibits, I have A, B, C, D, F as in Frank, G as in George. Is that correct?
We missed 2 of them that we actually stipulated to. It was AA, which is his
Yes,
employment, and BB, Your Honor,
Yes.
as well.
AA and BB.
Yes.
Okay.
correct.
All right, those exhibits are so admitted for the stipulation. Okay, so at this point, we'll take some testimony from both clients.
Yes.
Okay, not a problem. Why don't we go ahead and swear both parties in at the same time, so that we can review that.
You and each of you do solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs.
Will you please state your date of marriage for the record?
August 25th, 2016.
And is it your desire to have the court enter a divorce from today?
Yes.
And is it true that you and become incompatible in your likes and there's no chance of reconciliation?
Yes,
And did you change your name upon marriage?
I did.
And would you like to be restored to a maiden name?
Yes.
What is the name you would like to be restored to? Can you please spell your full name you would like the court to enter an order for on the record? Okay. And are you currently pregnant?
No.
And you heard the negotiations that counsel and I just stated on the record.
Yes.
And are you in agreement with those negotiations?
Yes.
And did you have an opportunity to consult with me before I place those negotiations on the record?
Yes.
And did I answer all of your questions with respect to those negotiations?
Yes.
And do you believe that those negotiations are fair and equitable?
Yes.
And do you believe that those negotiations address all of the assets and debts of your marriage?
Yes.
And do you think that those negotiations, are you satisfied with those negotiations with respect to the assets and debts?
Yes.
And that's a division that you can walk out of this courtroom and say, I'm happy with what I'm walking away with from this marriage.
Yes.
And did we forget to discuss anything asset-wise?
I don't believe so.
Did we forget to discuss anything with respect to the debts?
I don't believe so.
Okay, and so as your understanding is right now, the only issue for this court to decide is child custody and child support, and we were going to submit a brief on that.
Yes.
Okay. And all of your concerns have been addressed?
Financially?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And Your Honor, on that, I'll submit it unless you have any questions.
I believe we have everything. I believe, as she said, that no one has promised you anything in exchange for your agreement today.
No.
Thank you, ma'am. So you do so freely, voluntarily?
Yes.
You're on free. Okay, thank you.
I'll pass.
Thank you, ma'am.
I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. You may be seated.
Thank you.
You heard the statements that Ms. correct?
Yes.
And do you agree that you're both irreconcilable to the point that you cannot make the marriage work anymore?
Yes.
And you heard the terms that we've put on the record with regard to the finances?
Yes.
Okay, and do you feel that the terms that were put on the record fairly and accurately represent a equitable distribution of the assets?
Yes.
Were you able to confer with me prior to agreeing to these resolutions?
Yes.
Do you agree that, or sorry, are you under the influence of anything that could impact your ability to enter into this agreement today?
No.
Do you have any further questions of me with regard to this agreement? And is it your desire to be divorced today?
Yes.
Your Honor, I thought I would submit.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Question, has anyone promised you anything today to agree to these terms?
No, Your Honor.
You do so freely and voluntarily?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and both parties are satisfied with the terms of your representation by your counsel today?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Excellent job, counsel. You may be seated, sir.
Actually, Your Honor, I think we were gonna, I don't know if you want to leave them up there, we were
Oh,
gonna
you have a
question.
question number? Okay,
Yes.
go ahead, by all means, sir.
So, as myself and Ms. Szyc discussed, we're just gonna do a little bit of testimony with regard to what was said at the first day of trial, the limited portion. I also did have a request of the court, since we did things a little differently this last time. We did rush out, I did rest on custody. There's one question I never asked my client, if it's okay, I would like to just, okay, thank you.
Your Honor, I would just like to make a record, we talked about this beforehand, I am going to object to this because both parties did rest on the issue of custody. So I'm just objecting because both sides, we fully addressed custody issues and both sides rested on custody and we're here today for financial issues only, so I'm just making that record.
Okay, well, Ms. Tajbakhsh, why wasn't this brought up at the first?
We were trying to get all the witnesses out, and when my client and I sat down, I was like, we've covered it all, we're good, and then I realized there was one question that I didn't ask him, and it's one quick question, and again, because we were trying to get the witnesses out, at the end of the day, we stayed a little bit late. I would defer to the court, I would just ask if I'd be able to let my client make a record as to his position on just one thing.
Okay, I'll allow the question, of course, Ms. Szyc will have an opportunity to cross-examine on that question as well.
Absolutely, thank you, Judge. All right, Mr. Are you employed?
Currently, yes.
Okay, and what do you do?
I work for the IBEW, it's a electrical union.
Okay, speak up just a little bit, because I'm having a hard time hearing you. Okay, and what position do you hold at the electrical union?
Inside journeyman wireman.
What does that mean?
I do all the electrical work for buildings, commercial buildings, warehouses.
Okay. So are you just an electrician by trade, is that what that is?
Yes.
Okay. How long have you held this position?
Coming up on 20 years.
And is it a full-time position?
Sometimes. Sometimes they cannot find us work or work is slow, so we have to wait for them to tell us there's a new job.
Okay, so let me back up a little bit. How do you have like a set schedule? I'm not really sure how the unions work, so can you explain a little bit how the union works?
First thing you do, you go through an apprenticeship, 5-year apprenticeship. After that, you go to the main union hall. You sign a book, you get a number, depending on what time you signed your book, what date you signed the book. Everyone who signs before you is ahead of you. Everyone who signs after you is behind you. They have calls every day. Sometimes there's not calls during the day. Sometimes calls have certifications. Not everybody holds every certification. Sometimes calls have background checks for test sites or Air Force Base where some people can't pass a background check. Those calls get called out every morning if there are calls, by number, by name. Currently, right this second, I am number 512 on the book.
Okay. Okay, so you say there's calls every day. Is this daily or can projects take several days? Like how are you?
So this is just to get the job.
Okay. Okay, so you're number 512 just to get the job. That means
Correct.
there's 512 people in front of you?
Yes, and 300 behind me.
Okay. How often is it that you work like a 40-hour work week?
When and if a job gets to my number, then it's 40 hours a week plus overtime whenever overtime starts. The jobs are always scheduled for 40 hours a week.
Okay. And do you always keep the same number?
No, once you take a call and you work past 14 days, you lose your number. If you get laid off on day 15, you go to the very back of the book.
Okay, so, how much do you earn?
Right now we are, while we're working, it's $53.83 an hour plus benefits. That does not go to our check.
Okay, and do you have union dues?
Yes.
What are your union dues?
Roughly $5,300 a year now. It depends, it changes because of death benefits. If a person dies, if we have 10 deaths in a month, we have to pay more. If we have no deaths, we don't pay very much. So
When you
that's
say
why
we have deaths, is that
I
the,
speak as a general in the union. So
Okay.
all members have to pay if we have a death. We all have to put in for that death for
okay,
the family.
and how much does that usually end up being?
It's usually like $12 a person.
Okay, so you have 5,300 a year. Does it cost you anything else to be a part of that union?
Just upgrading tools when they wear out, but
Okay.
nothing constant.
So in earning 53.83 an hour, what's your gross monthly income before taxes and everything is taken out of your checks?
I haven't done that number in a while. I think it was 9,600 gross.
About 9,600. And how many hours a week would you work to get to 9,600 a month? $9,600 a month gross.
40 hours a week.
40 hours a week. When was the last time that you worked a 40-hour work week?
The week prior to February 2nd.
Of this year?
Yes.
So you haven't worked a full-time week since February 2nd?
That's correct.
How often, have you ever had a gap like this in your employment?
I have in 2009 when the market crashed. I didn't work for 8 months.
So how many hours on average are you working right now per week?
This is what's called a short call, so it's 14 days or less so that you do not lose your position on the book. And this call will end on Tuesday. The show opens on Tuesday, so this call will be 30 hours. And that's it. It's done.
Do you remember what your gross earnings were in 2023?
112,000 and some change, 300 something.
That was for 2023?
Yes.
And do you remember what your gross earnings were for 2022?
I think 109,000, but that was through the union. In 2022, I did some tradings of stocks, so that was also counted as income.
Okay. And then do you remember what you earned in 2021?
I do not. Okay, so when you work overtime, how often or how many hours a week would you work overtime if it's available? That depends on the project, because of every project's different. So, for instance, Prim, NB Energy did a powerhouse shutdown. They were working 7/14s. So everything after 8 hours is time and a half, up to 12. After 12 hours is double time, and Saturday and Sunday is all double time. So jobs like Fountain Blue never went on overtime. It was on time, 15 years late, but on time this time. So it never went overtime. It just depends on the job and how quickly they need to get it done or how far behind they are.
Okay. Do you have an exhibit book in front of you, Ms.? You do? No? Yeah, I'm gonna have you turn to Exhibit C in defendant's exhibits. This has been admitted by stipulation. Let me know when you're there. Is this your 2021 tax return?
It looks to be.
Okay. Taking a look at this, it looks like you filed a joint tax return, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And I apologize, it was 108,000, about 109.
108,000 for, and this is for 2021, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I think you said 109 for 2022.
Oh, was it 2022?
Yes. Do you think your amount was different for 2022?
No, I think it was always about the same through the union. Like I said,
Okay.
stocks were also an income that we're talking about.
Do you currently have anything in stocks?
No.
So are you trading at all?
No.
Other than employment income, are you receiving any other income of any kind?
The only other income is unemployment.
Okay, so are you receiving unemployment right now?
I will not be this week because I'll be working more than 12 hours, but I have been.
Okay, how many, if you can estimate how many weeks you've received unemployment since January 1st of this year, can you estimate that for me?
However many weeks there were since February 2nd to today, minus 3 weeks.
Okay, so between February 2nd through May 2nd,
Yes.
you received unemployment every week with the exception of 3 weeks, okay? And how much do you receive in unemployment when you receive it?
The full amount is $586.
Okay.
That amount changes depending on if you work or not. So when you work, they take from that total amount because you had income.
Okay. Okay, so you have an ongoing claim with unemployment?
Yes.
Okay. Have you been able to project what you're gonna earn this year?
There's no projection. They keep telling us that work is coming, work is coming, work is coming, and then in the same breath tell us that there's other locals that are a walkthrough, meaning you can go sign the books and go to work. I have no idea what our projection looks like.
You remember, I know it was a couple of weeks ago, but do you remember Ms. Kramer's testimony about unions and how you can sandbag your income through a union? Is there a way to make sure that you don't work through the union?
So that was stopped probably 10 plus years ago. They implemented what's called a strike system. And if you miss 3 calls that don't have any certifications to them, you go to the back of the books. You get 3 strikes, you go to the back of the books, you lose your number.
Okay, and how do you miss 3 calls?
Just don't show up.
Okay. Have you had any missed calls?
No.
Is there any other way to ensure that you don't get a job? Or is there, let me rephrase it, is there any other way that you would lose a job through the union?
The other way to lose your position to look for a job would not be to re-sign. You have to re-sign between the 10th and 16th of every month to keep your position. If you do not re-sign, you go to the back of the book.
So do you resign your position every month?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a set date that you go in, or do you just,
You do it online.
you do it online? Okay. So have you re-signed for May yet?
Not yet. 10th.
Since these proceedings started in 2023, it would have been about February 2023, have you ever missed signing up for work?
No. The only time I didn't work last year was when I was in the hospital and sick. I worked the rest of the year.
And how long were you in the hospital for?
2 days getting a blood transfusion. I was sick for 2.5 months.
Okay. And what was the diagnosis?
My medication stopped working, or insurance wouldn't provide me with new medication, approvals for new medication. So my flared up and I needed a blood transfusion.
And you had testified that you had applied for disability, correct?
I did.
Okay, and was that claim approved?
Last year it was, yeah.
Okay, and how much did you receive for disability?
It's a guess. I think it was 38 or 4,800. I can't remember.
And for how many months would that have been?
That was the 2 months.
And you're not, are you receiving disability at this time?
No. You can't piggyback disability and unemployment.
Do you pay any kind of support to?
Currently, yes.
Okay, and what's that amount?
1,000 a month.
Okay, and do you pay any other support for forms?
Just all of the rest of the bills.
And what does that equate to?
I believe it was close to 6,000, including the 1,000 a month.
So 6,000 a month?
Yeah.
Have you made those payments consistently since they were ordered?
Yes, I have.
So how do you make those payments if you're not working?
Well, just recently I had to pull from my retirement fund $50,000 to continue. That lasted 2 months. That'll be gone here, paying this month, and credit cards, and maxing everything out that I possibly can to make sure that everything that is court ordered is paid.
Are you paying for health insurance?
It's through my benefits total package. I don't pay out of pocket.
And you currently have insurance and on. On average, after taxes and your dues and everything, when you work a 40-hour work week after taxes, what is your take-home pay?
My take-home pay, the last 40-hour check, I believe, was $17.60, and they take dues out of that. They take working dues out of that. I still pay my IO dues, which are about $28 a month separately.
And do you get paid weekly or bi-weekly? So you get about $17.60
Yes.
after everything is said and done, weekly?
Yes.
And that's when you work a 40-hour work week?
Yes.
Has the union explained to you why there are less jobs?
Objection foundation.
He did testify that it's just less work,
Since due to,
and what it's due to. I'm just asking what it's due to.
right, since February 2.
Yep.
Overruled.
Has the union explained to you why there's less jobs since February 2nd?
They do not, but typically on election years, everything's pretty slow because we're always rallying and trying to get under different people's thumbs to try to get us more work. So everyone's sort of picking and choosing what they want to give us and what they don't want to give us, either union or non-union work. So typically on election years, it's slow.
How many years have you been working for the unions, Jason?
20 years.
20 years. So about 5 election cycles you've been through? Is there a different union you could join?
I mean, as a beginner, sure, I have to be an apprentice for anything I do, and I would make the same as unemployment at $10 an hour.
So even though you've been an electrician for 20 years, you would start it over as an apprentice in any union you go to?
Yes, because I'm not a plumber, I'm not a pipe fitter, I'm not a teamster, I'm not a carpenter.
Okay.
They don't care that I'm an electrician.
Okay, and you stated that you might be getting a job in the next few weeks, or being picked for a job in the next few weeks?
I mean, I would hope so, but right this second, like I said, I'm on a short call, working, the show is called Waste. It's a lot of trash trucks, but it's 4 days.
Okay. Do you have any side gigs that you do other than just working for the union?
No, unfortunately, I'm not allowed to.
And why are you not allowed to?
We're not allowed to work non-union. If we work non-union and someone sees us or we get caught, they can fine us up to what we have made, and they can also pull our ticket, pull our retirement. They can destroy everything that we've built. So it's not worth the risk to make a few $100s.
Okay. All right, Your Honor, pass the witness.
Thank you. Ms. Szyc?
When were you assigned the number 512?
So on February 2nd, I was actually assigned the number 762.
Okay.
And since then, I've dropped down to 512. The reason being is people in front of me have taken calls. So when they go past the 14 days, they no longer keep that position, so the numbers always fall.
Okay, so that it's liquid. It can change based on how much or how little you work.
It only goes down,
Okay.
except for one scenario when the 5th-year apprentices turn out. Turn out means become journeyman wiremen. They get slotted into the entire book position depending on how long they've been unemployed as well. That's already happened, and my number did not change.
Okay. So from this point forward, is your number only going to improve?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 5383, is that a steady rate or does your rate change based on the job you take?
No, the jobs are all the same. Everyone gets paid the same amount.
And
Actually, I apologize, I'm wrong. It depends on what contract you take a job from. If you take a contract through Insight Construction Agreement, everybody's 5383. If you take a job through the test site, you get per diem because the drive is so far, you get an extra $2.50 an hour for the drive.
okay. And you looked at Exhibit C in 2021, your union tax rate was $108,603. And you testified your 2022 tax rate was approximately $109,000 through the union. Is that correct?
I believe it was, yes.
Okay. And then you said you believed your gross for 2023 was $112,000. Was that from just the union?
Yes.
Was the increase from 2022 to 2023 because of work?
Raises. So
Raises.
every contract negotiation every 3 years, our best case scenarios, we get a few dollar raises.
So is that where the 5383 rate came from?
Yes.
Okay. And so you'll be at 5383 until at least 2026?
So the contract's done right now. We're in negotiations for new contracts. So whatever contract is negotiated through this summer would go into effect in August, and not the next. The next pay raise would be July of next year.
2025?
Yes.
Okay.
That would be the first upcoming pay raise again.
And to make sure I understood your testimony correctly, you said your last 40-hour work week was in the week prior to February 2nd of 2024.
Correct.
Okay. And then you've been essentially collecting unemployment from February 2nd of 2024 through May 2nd of 2024 with the exception of 3 weeks. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And from that approximate 3-month gap or so, have you been working at all?
I've taken 3 short calls.
Is that the 3-week gap?
Yes.
Okay. And is that to keep your position in the book?
No, that's because the number got to me and they called my name.
Okay. Were those the only opportunities you had to work in that time?
Yes.
Okay. And then you said the only other time you can recall it being like this was in 2009?
Yes.
Okay. So this is not typical?
It is not typical depending on the situation of the economy. When the economy dives, work dives. When
Okay.
the economy thrives, work thrives.
In your experience, the last time you have been unemployed for this significant period of time, though, was it in 2009?
Unwillingly, yes.
So there have been times where you have chosen not to work in the past? Is that what
So
I'm
there,
hearing?
there was a time where I used to only work trade shows. And that schedule is heavy, fall through spring and very, very light through the summer. So we would always take most of the summers off. And that's just how the schedule was. We worked a ton of overtime to cover, basically you work, and then you cover the gap for the 2 or 3 months if you don't work. And that was willing just for family time.
Okay, but
Otherwise, it's 40 hours a week all year.
that was a choice that you made?
Yes, we,
Okay. I mean, you say we, do you mean you?
yes,
Okay, but this is not a choice that you were making?
this is correct.
Okay.
I did not want to take 50,000 for my retirement, but
I'm sorry, are you
Yeah.
saying 1-5 or 5-0?
5-0.
Okay, we're gonna come to that. And you testified in 2021, you had some income that was from stocks and trading, is that correct?
Yes.
And your testimony is now you are no longer trading in stocks?
No, absolutely not.
Okay,
I have not since, I think I cashed out the stock. I put 2,000 in early February last year, and then when this all happened, middle of February, I took it out, put it back in the banks.
and then by February of last year, just so we're clear, you mean 2023?
2023.
Okay. And so there's been no stock trading since, we'll say March of 2023, is that fair?
Not one, yes.
Okay. Okay, and then you said approximately 2 months ago you took 50,000 from retirement. Was that a correct statement of your testimony?
That is correct.
And so 2 months ago would be March of 2024.
Yes.
And did I hear you correctly in that those funds are gone?
Yes, paying $15,000 a month to live, and then attorney's fees. I have $6,000 left.
Your testimony was that typically things are slower during election years. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so,
Well, sometimes they go a little longer, sometimes they find the right person that gets us work right away, sometimes it's a month, sometimes it's a couple. It really depends on the people that are in charge in the union at the time and what connections they have.
okay, in your 20 years of union experience, what is the year that you recall making the least amount of money?
As a first year apprentice.
Okay. Once you became, what is your title now?
Journeyman,
Since you become a journeyman, what is the year you recall making the least amount of money?
I'd say probably 2014-ish area.
Was that based on lack of work or?
That was based on getting in a car accident, having a triple fusion in my neck, so I couldn't work.
And that was because you were unable to work,
Yes,
not because there was a lack of work available?
that's correct. I have always been working, so even when work is slow and the numbers on the book gain, I always keep my job. I'm always working. So when we say in 2009 is the only time, that's because our union almost collapsed. So everyone was on the books. We had 1,800 members at one point in time not working
Because there was no work available
because
for
there was no work
anybody.
available. But I'm always on a project. I jump from one to another. I'm what's called a qualified rigger, so I can go do shows like this call right now. I took a call at 500 plus when the call started at 1, just because I'm a qualified rigger. There's only 7 of them. So
Okay.
sometimes I get special treatment as well because I have certifications. But to answer your question, I always have a job. I never sit on the books. But that's because I work. Because I'm a
Okay,
good
so
worker.
you mentioned that some jobs require certifications. How many certifications do you have?
I can label them all for you, or I can just tell you a number, probably 12 different certifications.
How many certifications are available for someone in your skill set?
There's a couple more. I have almost every certification that we offer.
Okay. And do those certifications come with a higher rate of pay, or do they just make you eligible to take more jobs?
The only one that comes with a higher rate of pay is being qualified rigger. They give you 5%.
And that is a certification that you have?
Yes.
Okay. And you said, I may have misheard you, and so if I did, I'm going to apologize for that in advance, but you mentioned, is general in the union. Were you indicating that you were speaking generally about the union, or is general in the union a title in the union?
That is not a title, but if you can remind me of the question, I said that.
Sure. You were, I believe council was just trying to clarify your answer. You were talking about union dues when they were
Oh, for death
5,300.
benefits.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and so but your answer, and I made a note, it said general in the union.
Yes.
So I was trying to understand, were you just trying to say I'm speaking generally about the union?
Yes.
Okay.
So when there's a death, every member in the union, all 4,800 members, pay $12.
Okay.
That's why I said union dues change. If we have 100 deaths through the year, if we have 400 deaths through the year, it changes by $12 per person.
Okay. And that's, in your comment, general in the union was just, you were speaking generally.
In general, for every member.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. I was trying to figure out if that was a title or not.
No.
Got it. Okay. And do you hold a leadership position in the union?
No, I currently do not.
Okay. Have you ever?
Yes.
What is the last time you held a leadership position?
2018.
Is that an elected position?
It was sort of given to me because that person retired.
How long did you hold that position?
About a year.
I'll pass.
Do you remember filing your most recent FDF in this case?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember what you reported as your gross monthly income, your average gross monthly income at this time?
I think it was around 15,000.
Gross monthly?
Oh, income. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I misheard you. I thought you the FDF. I was thinking money going out.
No. Your gross monthly income from your job. Like, do you remember what that was?
I don't remember. Throughout the year, I think we were averaging like 4,500 a month. I can't remember.
So if I told you that you reported on your FDF filed March 20th, 2024, that as of as of that date, your gross monthly income was $5,598.
Yes, and since then I've not worked more, so that number's down.
Does your criminal conviction prevent you from getting certain jobs through the union?
Yes.
Okay, and is there like a certain type of job you can't take, or is it just based on a company? Like, how does it affect you?
Companies would be a personal reason, but they're not supposed to do that. That's why we're union. The jobs I specifically cannot take anymore are background check calls. So Air Force Base, test site, the airport, anything that needs a background check.
And do you have any idea what percentage of those jobs, like out of all of the jobs that you get through the union?
There are a lot of the jobs I used to get.
Okay.
I worked on the Air Force Base for 5.5 years.
Okay. Mr. Have you ever been convicted of domestic violence?
No.
Have you ever been charged with domestic violence?
No.
Okay. Do you remember the testimony at the last day of trial that you had put your hand around, or your arm around Mr.'s neck
Yes, I
the
do.
day you separated?
Yes, I do.
Did you ever put your arm around her neck?
No.
Okay. Did you and Ms. get into an argument that
Absolutely.
evening?
Yeah.
Can you very briefly, tell me if there was any kind of physical interaction between the two of you?
Yes. There was punching, slapping, hitting from Mrs. and me. There was tape measure thrown at me twice, which ended up with deeply bruised ribs and a bruise on my back. And when I was walking out of the bedroom, she started hitting me again in the face, and the only time I ever made contact with her was I grabbed her around her arms and held her from hitting me. I said, "You need to stop this right there." And she looked at me. I let go, and I walked, and I grabbed her, and she told me to leave, and I said, "I'm going to say goodbye to my son for tonight." Walked out in the backyard, said goodbye for a few minutes, and put him back on the couch and walked out of the house.
Okay, and did you ever make a police report?
Yes, I did.
When did you make that police report?
This year.
Why'd you wait so long?
I was
I'm
hoping
sorry, I
that
didn't hear his answer.
I said, why did you wait so
No,
long?
I didn't hear his answer.
This year.
I was hoping that it wasn't going to be necessary. I don't want to have in a situation where both parents are in trouble. The reason why I didn't file it initially was I got arrested, and I'm looking at what I was looking at, and then if I file it right then and there, and mom gets arrested, where do I go? CPS, and grandma and grandpa, or on either side, mine or hers, take him. That's not a good life. That's initially why I waited. After that, I got sick, 2.5 months. Then I worked, and I thought that we were going to continue on differently. And then all of a sudden, here in this room, the previous attorney started talking about domestic violence, and that is when you and I discussed I need to file a report.
Were you ever interviewed or questioned about that incident?
Yes, I was after I made the file.
Okay, were you ever questioned about it after, like, immediately after the incident happened?
No.
Okay, did any police ever contact you? And if they did, do not tell me what they said. But did police ever contact you after that incident in February of 2023 with regard to the allegations made by Ms.?
About domestic violence? Absolutely not.
All right, you're not past the witness.
Is your testimony today that on the date of your separation, there was punching, is that correct?
Yes.
From to you?
Yes.
And there was slapping
Yes.
to you?
Yes.
And there was hitting?
Yes.
What kind of hitting?
Punching, hitting, slapping. That's all.
Where did she hit you?
In the face. I had scratches across my chest. I have pictures of it, and I had bruised
Did you
ribs.
provide those pictures to your attorney to produce in this case?
At some point in time, I'm sure I did.
Did they get produced in this
I
case?
don't know.
Okay. Where did she slap you?
In the face.
And did it leave a mark?
I don't remember if the slapping left a mark or not.
Did you take pictures of your face after the,
Yes, I did.
what happened to those pictures?
They're on my phone and they're submitted to the police now.
You submitted them to the police?
Yeah.
Did you follow up with the police about the report that you made?
They told me that it's in circulation, that if the district attorney or an assistant district attorney wants to take the case, they will, but because it wasn't filed within 7 days, I believe they said that they're not going to make an arrest.
Okay. When exactly did you make your domestic violence report?
I couldn't tell you the exact date. I can look at the paper and tell you later. I didn't bring it to you.
Did you provide a copy of the police report to your attorney after you made the report?
I know I told her about it. I don't remember if I sent it or not.
And is your testimony that you wrapped your arms around Mrs. chest after she punched you, slapped you, and hit you? During that time?
Yes,
Okay. And were you standing in front of her or behind her when you wrapped your arms around her?
in front of her face to face.
You were face to face
Yeah.
with her. Okay. How far apart were you when she started punching you?
So I came out of the room, which is a hard 90 to the left. The
Mhm.
hallway is 3.5 feet wide. So she was standing on the door side of the hallway. I came out of the room. She started hitting me again, and I grabbed her arms and basically around her shoulder, her biceps, and I said, "You need to stop this." Watch me. She looked at me, and I let go, and she stopped.
And how far away was from you when this incident occurred?
8-10 feet.
And where was her mom? Was she in
At
the
the
room?
kitchen table, 25 feet away.
So her mom was not holding.
No,
And where was your cell phone when this was happening?
in her hands.
And what hand did she scratch you with?
I couldn't tell you. It was both hands punching me, both hands slapping me.
So she was using both hands to punch you.
Yeah,
What hand was she holding her cell phone with then?
you can punch while you're holding something.
Oh.
You ever seen that? Like, look it, I'm holding things, you punch, you scratch, nails still come out. Yes.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Any follow-up, Ms. Tajbakhsh?
What was doing while this was going on? Jason?
Screaming stop.
Did you talk to him about the incident afterwards?
I have not.
Your Honor, I submit.
Okay. Nothing further?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, sir. You may step down. Okay, any further questions?
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, so at this point, we will go ahead and enter the dates into the,
Your Honor,
let me give you your decree of divorce, actually, right?
oh, I'm sorry.
You guys want your decree today?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, so based on the testimony provided by both counsel and both parties, the court does find that the parties have been properly canvassed with regard to the terms of settlement as to the financials. Both parties have agreed that as to the custodial matter, parties will submit their closing briefs on or about May 24 at 4:30 p.m. by filing their closing briefs, serving that appropriately, and emailing the Department A law clerk their proposed findings of fact, conclusions of law in Word format. With regard to the property, the court does find that the property negotiations that have been entered on the record are a fair and equitable distribution of all the assets and debts within the property. The court does find that both parties have testified that the negotiation, they're satisfied with the negotiation. It is a fair and equitable negotiation. It does encompass all of their assets and debts. There are no omitted assets and debts. They are not under the influence of any substance. They have not received any promises nor were they coerced to agree to the terms therein, and that they do so freely and voluntarily. Both parties have testified that they are incompatible in marriage due to irreconcilable differences, and therefore they seek a decree of dissolution today. Both parties have also testified that they are satisfied with the terms of representation of their respective attorneys. Therefore, the court does find that the terms of negotiation entered on the record today are fair and equitable, and the court does hereby find that it was freely and voluntarily provided by the counsel, by the parties, and the court therefore accepts the terms and certifies it pursuant to DCR 16. Both parties understand that today your terms are being entered as a final and binding measure. It's non-appealable, and it is set forth as an order of the court. Is that Yes, I see you shaking your head yes, but I want to
Yes.
hear your terms.
Yes.
Okay, and so the court does further find that this court is the court of proper subject matter jurisdiction as well as personal jurisdiction, and that the parties did live and continue to live in the state of Nevada at least 6 weeks prior to the filing of the complaint. They were married, and at this point, there are due to irreconcilable differences, the parties shall be restored to the status of single unmarried persons and shall be issued a decree of dissolution today, with the terms of finances being rendered on the record. The only matter that is pending is the custodial matter, which will be, the decision will be rendered after the closing briefs are submitted by parties. But as far as today is concerned, parties, you are divorced. Let's wait until your counsel submits the decree, so I can sign that before you go forward and do anything further. Okay?
Your Honor, one point of clarification, since school ends on May 20th this year, it's before our closing briefs are due. My client doesn't want any issues with the schedule. We just wanted the court to clarify what temporary schedule are we going to continue with, since I think the last order stated if school's out, my client gets the child the night before, an extra day, because he has the weekends. With school being out, there isn't going to be any really weekends. He's going to be out. So I would just I don't want to set them up for failure while we're waiting for a decision, Your Honor.
Understood. And I'm willing to hear arguments. I know right now that I'm giving Dad every weekend except for the third weekend. That was what Mom was requesting. That was a temporary order though, pending the matter. Now that we are entering into the summer vacation, I'm willing to hear arguments from both sides. Ms. Szyc, what is your client seeking?
Your Honor, I think until we submit briefs and there's a decision that the weekend schedule should stay in place, with the exchange time essentially being the same. If we need to modify the exchange location, we can do that. And it's the third and the fifth weekend that
Third
Mom
and
has.
fifth, that's
So,
correct.
yes, so,
Okay.
and.
So your
with the-
client is happy, Ms. Oh, one more thing. We want to restore Mrs. Smith's name to Mrs. I'm addressing you as such already. So we absolutely will ensure that the name of Mrs. will be restored to the name of effective immediately.
Thank you.
Okay, so Ms. you're happy with the current schedule with giving Dad, you're keeping the third and fifth weekends?
She doesn't have the fifth weekend, Your
Yes.
Honor, just the third.
I thought it was the
It's the third and the fifth
It's
weekend.
the third
It is
and
not.
Yeah, I thought I did clarify at one point. Originally I just said third, but later on, it wasn't at the same hearing, but I thought later on another hearing. I
It
did
could have
give
been
her-
that when you extended my client's time that we did the additional
I think so,
weekend.
yes. So third and the fifth weekend will be with Ms. If you're still comfortable with that? Okay, so we'll continue with the third and fifth weekend with Ms. All other weekends, beginning Friday until Monday. Now let's put a time because it doesn't need to be, what do we want to do, Friday 12 noon? Friday 3 p.m.? What time does school get out? Normally it's 3.
Well, Your Honor, if there's no school on Friday, I used to get him on Thursday, so shouldn't I get him on Thursday at noon?
Do you get them on Thursdays?
So
Yeah, that was the last
at the last hearing, the grandparents hearing,
There's no school.
you said if there was a holiday,
That's
because
correct.
there was no school. However, again, typical weekend schedule, I think we should follow the weekend schedule. The exchange should be Friday to Monday.
So the typical weekend schedule that I recall is Mom has Monday through Friday. Dad picks up Friday from school through the grandparents at the time and drops off Monday at school. Unless there is an extended holiday, for example, a Friday's off or a Monday's off, then he would pick up Thursday or he would drop off Tuesday if there was a holiday. That was extension was given for the benefit of the grandparents whose time is derivative from Dad's time. Mom gets third and fifth weekend. That's my understanding. That's correct?
That was correct.
That is our current one that we have.
I'm just double checking. My client is adamant that the fifth weekend wasn't ordered. I just want to make sure that the record
Well,
is
if
there.
it's
so
not,
I'm
I will
sure.
order it now. I'll give it to Mom because it is fair. I really do recall that I thought I did that, but if we're not sure, because.
And I'm
there's
not
no
doubting the
signage.
court, Your Honor.
Sure, sure. I don't think I did it though at the same hearing. I
Okay.
think they came back later. I don't know if it was Mr. Schneider or Ms. Szyc, but I do recall that I did give.
And I
that.
think it also happened in the grandparents hearing. Because I think it
It
occurred
might have been
at
in
the
the
same hearing,
grandparents'.
my first appearance, which was in the grandparents case.
Okay, and it might have been, and I apologize, and that's not good for me off the record because the grandparents' hearing is separate from this. But for purposes of today, for the temporary orders, I will say that the order Monday through Friday, Dad will pick up. I'm just trying to get a pickup for Dad. If used to get out of school at 3 p.m. Right now, there's no school, so why don't we just let Dad pick up at noon? That way he has the Friday. Dad can pick up Friday at noon and then drop off Monday morning. I don't know what time. I don't want him to have to wake up early. What time does he normally wake up?
7.
Oh, he's an early bird, huh? Okay.
Just he's on a school schedule, so
Okay,
Can we just do noon, Your Honor, and we just keep it noon across the board, is that possible?
That's fine, I'm giving mom third and fifth, so when dad gets his first, second, and fourth weekends, it will be Friday at noon to Monday at noon. Okay. And that'll be through the rest, and mom gets third and fourth, so this weekend, dad gets this weekend. So dad will pick him up tomorrow at noon, no, he's still in school right now.
And then with regard to, I mean, I'm sure the court will have the decision before Father's Day, but Father's Day and Memorial Day is also a holiday.
Well,
We don't have holidays.
30 days out from whatever the date of the closing briefs are gonna be. But let's go ahead, we have Father's Day, Mother's Day, mom needs to have Mother's Day, dad needs to have Father's Day. I normally throw in birthdays as well, if mom's birthday, dad's birthday.
If Father's Day falls on the third weekend, which I think it might, like, we've got no issue with changing or letting dad have
Sure,
a holiday,
absolutely.
right? Like, so,
When is Father's Day nowadays?
They
16th, I
can
think?
swap, yeah.
June
He just said they can
16th? Okay, the parties will swap, let's ensure that the mom always has Mother's Day, dad always has Father's Day. If you guys need to swap your weekends, okay?
I think that, and then Memorial Day, but I think that's the fifth weekend, so.
Okay, so I will go ahead, who wants to prepare the order from today? Or actually, you're gonna do the decree, but you guys are gonna be submitting your decree. And you can go ahead and just put these terms on the order after hearing or on something, so that way we do have it in writing that dad, for the summertime, dad will get Friday 12 p.m. pickup, Monday 12 p.m. drop off, and that will be the first, second, and fourth weekend of the summer. Mom gets the third and fifth weekend of the summer. Okay, anything else? And Father's Day and Mother's Day swap them out.
There was the order from the calendar call, Your Honor, do you just want that incorporated into the decree? That it was returned unsigned
I
for
believe
some
it was
reason.
returned unsigned because I think there was some language in it that I didn't grant, but I don't recall right now.
It was, I believe it was because it was without Ms. Szyc's signature is what we were told, which I'm fine sending it over to her, I just didn't know if you wanted to do it in the proposed decree or if you wanted just a separate order.
At this point, we can go ahead and you can go ahead and submit it as a separate order. I don't think we need any decree.
Okay.
But I think I wanted to first utilize the time. I recall why I didn't sign it. I didn't sign it because I wanted to come back here on the record and put my terms on the record and my explanation of why. Because I felt like signing it would be very short. It would not have provided the adequate context that Ms. Szyc was entitled to.
Understood, Your Honor.
Okay. But now that Ms. Szyc and everybody got my terms, you can go ahead and submit that. I can even sign it.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay, all right. I'll go ahead and sign it if there's nothing that is inaccurate with it. Let me go ahead and get some dates on the calendar. So you guys would like to submit May 24. We're just gonna put it down on Chambers. Well, May 24 is not a Chambers day, is it?
and just to be clear, the temporary order, where, are we incorporating this temporary order into the decree?
The temporary custody order?
Yeah.
I don't think we would, she's gonna issue,
I would like it just an order after hearing today, just a separate
Okay.
order after hearing.
That's fine.
Yeah, I don't need any decree. Okay, so Madam Clerk, we'll go ahead and just put it at 4:30 p.m. It's no appearance necessary on May 24. Did you guys want 4:30, did you say?
Yes, please.
4:30 p.m. Closing, we'll put it on the calendar as closing briefs. May 24, and then 30 days out from there. Take me to June 24. I want to put it on the Chambers calendar, June 20. Oh, good, perfect. Chambers is June 24. So
And
that's
then, do you want one of us to take the order after the hearing and one of us to take the decree?
yeah.
June 24, the decision will be
Or
rendered.
I thought we were doing it. Oh, yes.
Yeah, because we have the stipulated decree, and then she wants an order from the temporary
decision,
administration
yes.
schedule, so
At what
you want to
time?
So
divide
how
it?
many,
Uh, 6
I'm
p.m.
not sure
Chambers.
how many
You
decrees
know
are
what,
gonna
no, I
have.
already have a Chambers
Well,
on
so
that
we'll
day.
have a decision.
Oh, we're gonna have the decision
And
and
the
then we'll do the
decision,
decree.
which would be separate from the stipulated decree,
Yeah, I'll do the SIP decree.
and I'll do the order after.
Or,
hearing.
yeah.
Okay.
June 24. We'll just put 6 p.m. I have 2 decisions that day on Chambers.
So Your Honor, just so we have a record, I'm going to prepare the order after hearing from today, and Ms. Tajbakhsh is going to prepare the stipulated decree.
Okay.
And then we will wait for Your Honor's decision on custody after we
Okay.
submit the closing briefs.
Excellent. And you know what, Madam Clerk, we'll do it the following Chambers because I already have something on June 24. I can't do double book this is not possible.
So July 1st?
Yes, July 1st. It'll be before then, but I can't put them all in the same. I have already a Chambers decision at 6. So we'll set a special setting, 6 p.m. Chambers on July 1st. It'll be rendered well before then though, but at least we have it consistent. I'm a stickler for keeping things all on the same thing. Now we'll make an exception for them. Their Chambers is gonna be on a Friday instead of a Monday. Do you guys just wanna do it on Monday just to keep everything consistent or you're?
What the-
It's a holiday, that's fine.
I mean, whatever's easier for the court, we just arbitrarily picked a date.
That's fine.
So if it's easier for you to give us a different date, that's,
No, you know what, it's fine, because if I were to give you a Monday, I just normally have all of these on Monday chambers times, for time slots at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. is when closing briefs, and 6 p.m. on Mondays are when decisions are rendered, so then it's consistent. But the only challenge is Monday the 27th is a holiday.
I
So
mean,
why don't we just do the Monday before?
okay.
Can you do
That's-
Monday before?
That's fine, Monday the 24th, Friday the 24th works fine. We're okay. So
Yeah.
Friday the 24th, 6 p.m., and then the next Monday chambers that I can give them is July 1st, so that I'm not double booked. Okay.
So for clarification, the closing argument briefs are due May 24th by 6 p.m.
I normally say 6, but they want 4:30. You guys want 4:30?
We'll probably get it in. We did that so that none of us.
So we wanted to
submit at the
align
same time.
resubmission, yeah,
Yes,
yes, that's it,
I like
so.
that.
Yeah.
4:30.
Yeah, 4:30.
Yes, 4:30, Monday, May 24th.
And if you get it done earlier, text me and we'll just.
Yes, no appearance necessary.
Mhm.
And then day 2, or day 3, I guess, because this was day 2. So day 3 decision would be rendered on July 1st, 6 p.m. chambers, no appearance necessary.
Okay.
And it'll be before then, but at least I'm consistent on my Mondays. Okay, and all prior orders remain in effect, and the order after hearing will be prepared by Ms. Szyc, and Ms. Tajbakhsh will submit the decree for finances, correct?
Thank you.
Okay, excellent, great work, council and parents. So today you have received your decree of divorce, I wish you both the very best of luck. And so you go ahead and submit your documents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to call it a bifurcated decree, Your Honor, so they don't have several
That's a
decrees?
great idea.
Okay.
Yeah, bifurcated decree for finances.